great job on behalf of the citizens of New York City, New York State, and in the tri-state area. So I want to thank you very much for your leadership and dedication.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secondly, I've been in touch with you all, and you've extended me a kind invitation to come to New York City. I accept. I'll be there tomorrow afternoon after the prayer service at the National Cathedral. I look forward to joining with both of you in thanking the police and fire, the construction trade workers, the restaurant owners, the volunteers, all of whom have really made a huge display for the world to see of the compassion of America and the bravery of America and the strength of America. Every world leader I've talked to in recent days has been impressed by what they have seen about our nation and the fabric of our nation. And I want to thank everybody when I come. So thank you for your hospitality.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for coming to New York. I'm sure that's going to be a great inspiration to all of us, and particularly those thousands of men and women still downtown trying to help us with the rescue efforts. I also want to thank you for all the help we've gotten from the federal government. It's been tremendous, and for your words. You are right. Our nation is united as never before, and we will triumph over this evil with your leadership and your inspiration. And I also have to congratulate the mayor for the tremendous effort he has made. Mr. President, you would be proud of the leadership and the cooperation we've seen here. The city has taken the lead. Your people have been enormously supportive, and we're very grateful.
Well, thanks, George. And Rudy, thank you all. I know you've put in a request, and I've directed the Attorney General to expedite any payments of benefits for those fallen public safety officers to their families, any benefits to their families. And the Attorney General, as I understand, will be making a formal announcement of your request today. I've told Albaugh anything it takes to help New York. I have been in touch with the Congress. They are expediting a supplemental. We've had great cooperation with members of the Congress in both political parties. So just keep in touch. I know you will. This isn't the first time we've talked, and I really appreciate the fact that you all are in charge. And I know the citizens of New York and the tri-state area, people of New Jersey and Connecticut, are appreciative as well.
President, the uniformed officers, the police, the fire, the emergency service officers, their families will really appreciate this. We're going to sustain a tremendous loss of our bravest and our best people. And the relief that you're now making available to the families, it's going to mean a lot to them. They're going to be able to think about the fact that their children are going to be taken care of, that they're going to be able to go to college, that they're going to be able to carry on. So I can't express to you how appreciative we are of your acting so swiftly. And also, on that terrible day when our city was being attacked, you were in immediate communication with us, Mr. President, and helped to secure the city. And the work you've done for us, we all eternally appreciate. You've been a terrific leader, and we're taking direction from you, and we're following your example. You've done a terrific job, Mr. President.
Well, thanks, Rudy, and thanks, George. Let me make it clear to you all, as my close friends, that my mindset is this. One, I'm weep and mourn with America. I'm going to a hospital right after this to comfort families. I wish I could comfort every single family whose lives have been affected. But make no mistake about it, my resolve is steady and strong about winning this war that has been declared on America. It's a new kind of war. And I understand it's a new kind of war. And this government will adjust. And this government will call others to join us to make sure these acts, the people who conducted these acts and those who harbor them are held accountable for their actions. Make no mistake. And as we do so, I urge, I know I don't need to tell you all this, but our nation must be mindful that there are thousands of Arab Americans who live in New York City, who love their flag just as much as the three of us do. And we must be mindful that as we seek to win the war, that we treat Arab Americans and Muslims with the respect they deserve. I know that is your attitudes as well, certainly the attitude of this government, that we should not hold one who is a Muslim responsible for an act of terror. We will hold those who are responsible for the terrorist acts accountable and those who harbor them. You'll see, and I look forward to visiting with you in person tomorrow, about the resolve of this government. And so I thank you very much for your leadership on the ground. I wish I was visiting under better circumstances, but it will be a chance for all three of us to thank and hug and cry with the citizens of your good area.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We really appreciate this very much.
We'll see you tomorrow.
President, we're looking forward to your visit. It will inspire us all, and we will be with you when the United States takes firm and appropriate action to those who conducted this evil.
Thank you all very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
God bless.
Mr. President.
Bye.
That, of course, is the President speaking from the Oval Office with New York Governor George Pataki and with Mayor Rudy Giuliani, basically saying he weeps and mourns with America and restating his resolve. And I guess the headline from it, the President says he'll be here tomorrow afternoon, coming to take a look at the damage firsthand, and we assume visit with the police and fire workers that have been down doing heroic duty on the southern tip of Manhattan. Of course, all this is set against a very interesting political backdrop, which is that the President has avoided coming to New York because his candidacy was rejected. Oh, wait, he's speaking from the Oval Office, taking questions.
How close are you, sir, to finding out, nailing down who is responsible for these acts? And what kind of international coalition are you trying to build? Is it similar to the one your father built for the Persian Gulf War?
I am, first let me condition the press this way. Any sources and methods of intelligence will remain guarded in secret. My administration will not talk about how we gather intelligence, if we gather intelligence, and what the intelligence says. That's for the protection of the American people. It is important as we battle this enemy, we conduct ourselves that way. Secondly, I've been on the phone this morning, just like I was yesterday, and will be on this afternoon on the phone with leaders from around the world who express their solidarity with this nation's intention to rout out and to whip terrorism. They understand, fully understand, that an act of war was declared on the United States of America. They understand as well that that act could have easily been declared on them. These people can't stand freedom. They hate our values. They hate what America stands for. Many of the leaders understand it could have easily have happened to them. Secondly, they understand that unlike previous war, this enemy likes to hide. They heard my call loud and clear to those who feel like they can provide safe harbor for the terrorists, that we will hold them responsible as well. And they join me in understanding not only the concept of the enemy, that the enemy is a different type of enemy. They join me also in solidarity about holding those who fund them, who harbor them, who encourage them responsible for their activities. I'm pleased with the outpouring of support. Jiang Zemin, Vladimir Putin, had a great visit this morning with His Royal Highness Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. I will continue to stay on the phone. And there is universal support for the American people, sadness in their voice, but understanding that we have just seen the first war of the 21st century. And there's universal approval of the statements I have made, and I am confident there will be universal approval of the actions this government takes Yeah, Stretch.
Mr. President, if this is a different kind of war, it might require perhaps a different kind of coalition. Many people believe that for a real war on terrorism to work, you'll need cooperation from governments that haven't necessarily done so in the past, specifically Pakistan and Afghanistan. Have you made any progress on that front?
I would refer you to the statements that the Pakistani leader gave about his, I don't have the exact words in front of me, but his willingness to work with the United States, and I appreciated that statement. And now we'll just find out what that means, won't we? We will give the Pakistani government a chance to cooperate and to participate as we hunt down those people who committed this unbelievable, despicable act on America.
Mr. President, how confident are you that Osama bin Laden is behind these attacks? Do you know what his whereabouts are? And secondly, what kind of support are you looking for from Congress in terms of your willingness to act?
We are, we will not discuss intelligence matters, how we gather intelligence, and what we know. Secondly, I am about anybody. When our government acts, you'll be informed. Secondly, we had a great meeting yesterday here in the cabinet room with leadership of the House and the Senate. I was touched by their response, their encouragement, and their willingness to work together. And I would be very pleased to see a strong resolution come out of Congress supporting the administration and what we intend to do, and we're working closely with Congress. Secondly, progress is being made on a supplemental. I thought that was very swift action, and I'm most appreciative again of Senator Daschle and Representative Gephardt, as well as my Republican colleagues, for really showing solidarity again and uniting the nation. Now is the time for the country to be united. And, you know, through the tears of sadness, I see an opportunity. You know, make no mistake about it, this nation is sad. But we're also tough and resolute. And now's an opportunity to do generations a favor by coming together and whipping terrorism, hunting it down, finding it, and holding them accountable. The nation must understand this is now the focus of my administration. We will be very much engaged in domestic policy, of course. I look forward to working with Congress on a variety of issues. But now that war has been declared on us, we will lead the world to victory. To victory.
President, what is your understanding of the threat to Air Force One, and do you believe that the terrorists attempted to assassinate you, sir?
I will not discuss the intelligence that our country has gathered.
Do you believe they tried to assassinate you?
I believe I took the, I know I took the appropriate actions as the Commander-in-Chief to be in a position to be able to make the decisions necessary for our government to handle the crisis. You didn't hear the end of the phone call with the mayor and George Pataki, both of whom thanked me for the fact that we was immediately on the phone with them from Air Force One, and our government responded quickly.
How did you feel knowing you're under personal threat?
Could you give us a sense as to what kind of prayers you are thinking and where your heart is for yourself as you work on that?
I think about myself right now. I think about the families, the children. I'm a loving guy, and I'm also someone, however, who's got a job to do, and I intend to do it. And this is a terrible moment. But this country will not relent until we have saved ourselves and others from the terrible tragedy that came upon America.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The president, in a very unusual impromptu press conference in the Oval Office, obviously getting quite emotional towards the back end and tearing up as he talked about some of the people victimized in Tuesday's attack. He basically said, when asked when we'll strike, he said, when our government acts, you'll be informed. Speaking to reporters. He also said, seemed to throw one directly at Congress, and he said he'd be pleased to see a strong resolution come out of Congress, but he noted that progress is being made on some spending authorization. And remember earlier we heard Bill talk about the sensitivity of the White House as to whether or not the president was a target. And when he was asked, do you believe you were a target, he said, I don't just believe, I know.
I know.
I
made the right decision is what
I
he said.
took the appropriate action as Commander-in-Chief.
I thought it was interesting what he said about Arab Americans in New York City. There are Arab Americans in New York City who love their flag as much as we love ours. And we should treat them with the same respect that we would any other American. We've heard of the horrible acts that have been perpetrated against people, Arab Americans across this country and around the world over the last 48 hours. But that statement is strong.
It is
and
strong.
It means something.
And it's needed. Let's check in with CBS News senior political correspondent Bob Schieffer, who's standing by on Capitol Hill after witnessing that fairly extraordinary press conference. Bob?
I think it was an extraordinary press conference because I think that was the George Bush that a lot of people who have known George Bush over the years, that is the George Bush that they know. I thought this was the most human. I thought this was the strongest. It was most like George Bush off camera, if that's the way to say this, that I have ever seen. And clearly, as he left that news conference, I believe there were tears in the president's eyes.
Bob, were you surprised at the direct words to Congress that he'd be pleased to see a strong resolution coming out of Congress?
Well, he's going to get that strong resolution. People spoke here until almost to midnight last night because everybody wanted to speak in support of a resolution supporting the Congress. And Brian, we're going to see a very extraordinary thing today. Both the House and the Senate, if my information is correct, and it comes from the leadership on both sides, are going to pass a $20 billion appropriations bill, an emergency appropriations bill, and my guess is it's going to pass with near unanimity. That almost never happens around here. The president had asked for extra money to pay for all these emergency measures that have to be taken. The Congress set the number $20 billion as something that they thought they could do, and I think they're going to get it done in one day.
Bob, we saw the president, correct me if I'm wrong on my numbering system here, but I think he came forward publicly 4 times on Tuesday, and I think 3 times yesterday. We've already seen him on one occasion. It's not even noon here. Should we expect the president to stay very public and very out front on this thing?
I think you're going to see that, Bryant, and I think they have to do that. The White House is very sensitive now about the president's whereabouts on the day that all of this happened, when Air Force One was first flying to Barksdale Air Force Base, then flying to Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. All of this happening as Mayor Rudy Giuliani was sort of on the scene of the crime, directing traffic, as it were, in lower Manhattan. I think the president is sensitive that some people think that he had let the Secret Service take over when, in fact, they thought he ought to be back in Washington. All of that is still being sorted out. Whatever the case, I know that the White House is very, very sensitive on this subject. My guess is you're going to see a lot of the president. My guess also is that's what the American people want to see.
Okay, Bob, thanks very much. And he's coming here to New York tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
All right, Bob, thanks very much. It's 11:19, Jane.
Brian, there's been plenty of support from around the world over the attacks on the U.S. Tom Fenton is in London. We want to check in with him now. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Jay. Well, here in Britain, there's solidarity with the United States, with sympathy for America's victims and the British own victims as well. The British government this morning revealed that at least 500 British citizens may have been lost in the World Trade Center. For the first time in history, the ceremony of the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace was altered. The band played the American national anthem, and with Prince Andrew and the American ambassador William Farish in attendance, there were 2 minutes of silence for the victims.
Flowers are also being brought to the American embassy, along with notes of sympathy. There's been a constant stream of mourners since early Wednesday. Meanwhile, in Germany, there are the first signs of European cooperation in the hunt for those responsible for the attacks. Police in Hamburg raided a building and took away a woman in Arab clothing and her child. They went to extraordinary lengths to hide her identity.
In Afghanistan, there may be people who also have something to hide. The Taliban regime, which has been harboring Osama bin Laden, America's presumed #1 suspect, now denies that they have him under house arrest. And there are reports that people are digging trenches in the streets of the capital, Kabul. June?
All right, Tom Fenton in London. Thanks.
All right, Jane. CBS News consultant Mitch Mitchell is a retired Army colonel and an anti-terrorism expert. He's in Washington. Colonel Mitchell, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
You were actually near the Pentagon on Tuesday when United Flight 77 came down on the Pentagon. Take us through what you saw.
We were right beside it. I was bringing my wife back from the airport. She had tried to catch a flight to New York that morning, and of course that didn't happen. And after 2 attacks on the World Trade Center towers and 3 frantic phone calls, I told her to get out of the airport. I was coming to pick her up. She wasn't going to New York. I picked her up, started to take her home. We went down Route 395, which is adjacent to the Pentagon. And just as we got even with the Pentagon, I looked out to the front and saw coming straight down the road at us a huge jet plane, clearly with American Airlines written on it, and it looked like it was coming in to hit us. I told my wife it's going to hit the Pentagon. It crossed about 100 feet in front of us and about 20 feet altitude, and we watched it go in. It struck the Pentagon, and there was no indication whatever that it was doing anything other than performing a direct attack on that building. The landing gear was up, there were no flaps down, and it looked like a deadly missile on the final phase of its mission into the building. It was a horrible sight.
Colonel, as you know, the White House has been at great pains to try to point out that this plane may have been intended for the White House or for Air Force One. Did you see this plane making any particular maneuvers aside from aiming at the Pentagon?
No, Bryant. We saw what I estimate to be about the last 7 seconds of the flight. It was a straight-in flight, angled slightly down, and there was no intent to turn or to maneuver in any way. It was headed straight for its target. And we were helpless to do anything about it but watch. We couldn't yell at anybody to duck or get out of the way. We just watched it go in and snuff out probably 200 or 300 lives.
Knowing the Pentagon as you do you think this plane was intended for any particular section of it, or was it just trying to hit at America's defensive nerve center?
You know, it's hard to say, Bryant. It went in on the side opposite the side of the building where the big brass is. But with that type of attack, who's to say whether it was going to hit the one side or the other or aim for the center ring of the Pentagon? You can't really tell. All I know is that it did hit the building.
Yeah, we deal in a lot of what ifs. Would it have been possible if the FAA had notified the Air Force in time that this was a hijacked aircraft coming as it did after the attacks on the World Trade Center? Could it have been shot down?
It could have been shot down if they'd scrambled fighters soon enough, but there was a complicated process here, Bryant. They had to transfer control from the Dulles Tower to the National Tower, tell them that the airplane was going into a restricted zone. There were transponder problems. They couldn't identify exactly what that airplane was. And all these things take time. And then if they decide that there is an attack, that's when they call for the alert for the fighters to come up. If they had come up, I don't know how they would have shot it down without terrible damage to the surrounding area, because the airplane, when it passed by us, came in at 20 feet altitude, and by the time it hit the Pentagon, it was actually below us. So to shoot it down would have been very difficult. It was almost on the ground as it was.
Yeah, and probably would have wound up with the same amount of casualties or worse.
A number, you know, and then you have to ask American pilots to shoot down a plane carrying American passengers.
That's
what
a
a
tough
horrible
order.
mission.
That's a tough order. Colonel Mitch Mitchell, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. It's 11:24. Some viewers are going to cut away now for local news. We're going to continue here with a special edition of The Early Show covering the attack on America. back at 11:25. Kind of an extraordinary morning for the president, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought he gave I agreed with Bob Schieffer. I think he gave a remarkable speech, and that's the kind of president, that's the kind of George W. Bush that you see behind the scenes. That's the kind of person that you see when the cameras aren't on.
Yeah.
That sort of compassionate, heart that I think he has.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to talk about this, especially if you do it on an ongoing basis, without from time to time just welling up and it's a done deal.
Well, I know for some people it's hard to talk about, removing politics from it, but he is a man and he feels the same emotions about this as we all do, and especially as the leader of this country. You can imagine the enormity of his emotions, and I think he expressed them very well to the reporters and to us today.
He's coming in tomorrow. I wonder, I can't believe he's going to come and stay. I wonder if it's just going to be a brief touchdown and out.
I got to tell you, I'm surprised they announced it. I'm surprised that they announced it a day in advance. I mean, given the security concerns that they've clearly had over the last couple of days, that they would announce it, that he's coming to the site, that he's going to be here after the national prayer service at the the cathedral.
At the National Cathedral, yeah.
I can't imagine that they would be that specific about it, but
Good point. Good point. I was saying earlier before you started taking questions, what's ironic about this and about his promise to come is that this is a president who had, frankly, avoided New York since he became president because New York State in general and New York City in particular had rejected the candidacy of George W. Bush wholeheartedly, and there was talk that the White House was holding this against New York, and so the fact that he is coming here has special significance, I'm sure, for a lot of New Yorkers particularly.
Well, and at this moment in our history, politics aside, this is something he has to do. I thought it was interesting that he talked about extending the benefits to the families of those fallen, fallen public servicemen, the firemen who have perished, 350 now, that we learned this morning, who are no longer with us. Imagine how grateful those families are for what they'll be getting.
Well, and I hesitate to even talk about this because I probably won't even be able to finish it, but I saw a brief note in the paper this morning addressing the idea that there are now going to be quite a few children who are orphaned, and that there are a number of children who lost the single parent that was raising them in this tragedy, and that among the many needs that social services have are what to do with these youngsters, and they fear the youngsters. The number I saw was in excess of 450 children who are now orphaned by this, and government suddenly has a decision to make about what to do with them and in whose care they place them, and it's just one of the many residual effects of what happened on Tuesday morning.
There's so many stories like that. I mean, the Time magazine is just out, and I'm sure it's full of...
Here, we'll show it.
Stories like that. There's the cover. There's the cover.
Yeah, this is their special issue. And by the way, I don't want to lose this here. There's also, lest we not be giving equal time, that's certainly not our intent. This is the Newsweek cover, their special issue. A remarkable picture.
A picture really remarkable. With just the date and time.
Yeah.
Like we saw in Oklahoma City, but as even Governor Keating said, as horrible as that was, it even pales in comparison to this.
Well, yeah, I thought it was interesting that he said, we were talking about a 10-story building, now we're talking about a 110-story building and 2 of them.
That's right, with, 20 to 30,000 people in each one.
Yeah. It's you wonder, who knows, you go through a lot of what-ifs. It seems lost in the aftermath now, but Tuesday morning was also Election Day here in New York City.
Postponed indefinitely, actually.
Yeah, you wonder if, thankfully, some people weren't there at their desk by 9 a.m. because, as is customary for a lot of people who vote, you vote before you come into work, not afterwards, because the lines are shorter. And you wonder how many hundreds, how many thousands of lives.
Let's hope there were. Let's hope there were that many.
By the coincidence, you never know. Coming up at 11:30, we'll be right back. We're back now at 11:30 and getting set for another half hour before we give way to Dan Rather, our continuing look at the attack on America. Within the hour, we've watched the president speaking from the Oval Office in a phone conversation to New York Governor George Pataki and Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and promising that he would be here on site tomorrow. We assume surveying the area and talking with some police and fire officials down there.
He had announced earlier that tomorrow was a day of remembrance, of prayer and remembrance across this country, and he'll make his way to New York after a prayer ceremony at the National Cathedral in Washington.
He'll be at the National Cathedral. And then at an impromptu press conference, we had the unusual sight of seeing the President of the United States welling up as he was talking about the victims.
As I said and as Bob Schieffer said, I mean, I think that's the president that a lot of people want to see right now.
Yeah, indeed. It was just a few minutes ago. It was supposed to happen at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. It's now coming up at 11:31. It was just a few minutes ago that U.S. airspace was reopened to commercial flights, but you should not expect the airlines to get right back to normal. In fact, it's going to be anything but normal for quite a while. Mark Strassman is at Atlanta's Hartsfield Airport International with more on that. Mark?
Good morning, Bryant. America is back in the air. 10 minutes ago, a Delta Boeing 767 landed here in a half hour. A South African Airways plane bound for Johannesburg is scheduled to leave here. One arrival, one expected departure. That is the first activity here at America's busiest airport since the Tuesday morning terror shut down this country's aviation system. Atlanta's airport is open, but on a very limited schedule. Back open because it has been recertified by the FAA, recertified as having the appropriate security to allow it to reopen. Very few airports have that, among them Newark and Little Rock. Most airports do not, and that's the problem. Leaving here is one thing, but you have to have some place to land. Airport officials are urging only confirmed passengers to come to the airport today. You should call first, because otherwise you may get here and be stuck here. Here in Atlanta, at least, airline officials privately say they expect very few flights to leave today, perhaps fewer than a dozen. So on that South African flight, the 356 confirmed passengers consider themselves very fortunate to be leaving. Most of them stuck in Atlanta since Tuesday, and thousands of other passengers here will not be so lucky.
Happy to get home. Obviously a little bit apprehensive.
Things will move slowly. We have new security procedures in place, and we want people to bring with them their confirmed reservations, tickets, and their patience.
You've been asked to pack some extra patience because the airport that you remember has changed. There are going to be significant changes here. You can expect tighter security and much longer delays. Among the changes here, there will be no more curbside check-in. You'll have to bring the bags inside to the counter. Only passengers with their own tickets will be allowed beyond security, and there will be no more knives or cutting tools allowed on board. Those will be confiscated. Something else to consider if you like to use electronic tickets as you fly. It used to be if you had one of those e-tickets, you could bypass the counter and go straight to the gate. No more. Now you have to go to the counter first before you're allowed beyond security and then onto the gates. That, along with all the other folks who used to check their bags at the curbs, is likely to create a huge bottleneck at certain counters. The potential for that is really great. So, airline officials are saying this. It used to be they recommended that you allow for an hour before your scheduled departure to arrive at the airport. Bryant, now they're saying it's 2 hours.
All right, Mark, and I don't need to ask you about traffic. As I can tell from the scene behind you, it's pretty light.
It's pretty light today, Bryant. They're not quite sure what to expect today. They know most folks have heard that the schedule is going to be light.
All right. Mark Strassman in Atlanta, thanks very much. Meanwhile, before we go to Tracy Smith, we just got word that the National Football League has made a decision and has decided to cancel all of this weekend's ball games. You might recall that in 1963, following the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the NFL chose to play its games and has lived with the feedback, negative feedback from that decision ever since. This time the NFL has decided to bypass week number 2. No word yet on whether those games will be rescheduled or when. Meanwhile, family members have been gathering at hospitals in New York looking for information about loved ones missing since Tuesday's attacks. Tracy Smith has been at St. Vincent's Hospital all morning. Tracy?
Good morning, Brian. Yeah, I'm standing with Joe Teesey, who's looking for his sister, Mary Ellen Teesey. Hi, Joe, what was the last that you heard?
Good morning. We heard that she was in the stairwell on World Trade Center 2, that she was evacuating with other people in this stairwell. People had seen her and they're shocked that she didn't get out, and we're shocked that we can't find her. Our concern is that she is an unidentified person, unconscious or sedated in a hospital, and we want to try to find her and be with her.
You heard good news, you thought, at one point.
We heard great news. We talked to her boss had called his wife and said, no, I'm sure Mary Ellen got out. We evacuated together. We had taken that to mean that they left the building together. What they had done is leave the offices together, but she was in the stairwell, and he knew that.
You were ready to see her.
We were ready to see her. We were waiting for her to call, and she just never called. And then when we talked more to her boss, he said that he left her in the building, but he was sure that she got out. Other people from her floor have gotten out, so we're just bewildered as to what could have happened to her.
Do you have a gut feeling on this?
You know, it's really weird. Our mother is convinced that she's fine and that we just need to find her. My sister Teresa and I feel that same way, but as time goes by, it's harder and harder to keep your hopes up. And that's what we're doing now. We're going to tramp the city until we find her. And we've been going from hospital to hospital so far, and we've listed her with the Red Cross, with the New York City Police, and I'm sure within the rescue efforts they're doing everything they can. They have her photographed, they have her name, they have our contact names. Our concern is that there are hospital people who are overtired and been working so hard to treat that they might not have had time to identify, and so we want to get her photograph out, and so that we can find her.
It's one hope.
That's one hope, and our fear is, you know, if she's with God, we're happy because she's a wonderful person. But if she needs us, we want to be there.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck. You're in our prayers and thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brian?
All right, Tracy, as we continue to try to recover from Tuesday's events, getting help from a lot of corners, Frank Donahue is CEO of the Philadelphia Red Cross and member of the Red Cross disaster team, and has come here to help. Specifically, Mr. Donahue, how are you assisting here?
I've been here since yesterday, I guess, 50 hours ago when it happened. I was on the scene primarily around the World Trade Center the first day. I've been losing kind of days, but all day helping.
I imagine you haven't slept.
Not much, but we were providing primarily relief to the relief workers the first day, setting up shelters so that people could be evacuated to safe areas, providing them as much information as we had, and providing water and food, etc. We fed 10,000 meals the first night to firefighters and rescue workers down on the scene in the World Trade Center area. And of course, yesterday, the grim task began, as you saw in that segment, about being at hospitals, having compassion centers. One of the big jobs of the American Red Cross is providing mental health counseling to families, being there for them to provide emotional support. Yesterday, at one of the hospitals I visited, I asked one of our workers what they'd experienced and what was their most memorable experience of the day. I asked her, and she said to realize that 3,000 people they had seen yesterday in that one location who can't find a loved one, and they had not one name matched on a hospital list.
If someone's in that situation looking for someone, what do you suggest they do?
Around the country, our phones are ringing off the hook, and we tell everyone around the United States, if you think there's somebody who was in that facility or that you haven't been able to get in touch with, contact your local Red Cross. We'll begin the process of what we call a disaster welfare inquiry.
A couple of quick things. We heard early on that you needed blood. Do you still?
Not many people are coming out of the rubble at this point. There's not a lot to use the blood for. We need people to always be ready to give blood. I think one of the sad things is in a city like this, there's a blood shortage. We should never have a blood shortage in America. 1-800-GIVE-LIFE. We need blood. We'll continue to need blood around the country.
You talked about the 10,000 meals down on the southern tip of Manhattan. Resources. Do you need anything?
Today we have a train coming up from Washington filled with water, and one of the stories you were just talking about, teddy bears, toys for kids that have been stranded. We need people to help in any way they can. The local Red Cross, they can call 1-800-HELP-NOW to make financial contributions. 1-800-GIVE-LIFE to make blood contributions.
So those people who want to help right now, the best thing they can do, take out their checkbooks?
Take out their checkbooks and pray. Pray for the workers that are here, pray for the folks that have been stranded.
All right. Frank Donahue. Frank, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Brian.
All righty. It's 11:39, Jane.
Thanks, Brian. Stories of heroism and valor are slowly beginning to emerge, and we'd like to share one with you now. 47-year-old Arthur Del Bianco is an engineer who usually works on the roof of the World Trade Center. After hustling, panicking people out of Tower 2, he went back inside several times to look for coworkers and to help the wounded. Here is his story in his own words.
I was about the 70th floor on the elevator, 50 car, when the lights flickered and people started screaming on the radios. And I heard women saying, "I'm trapped, this is fire, get me out of here." So I told the elevator operator, open the door. Get the door open, get these people out of here. People jumped on the elevator, we took them downstairs, and they got to leave the elevator downstairs for the firemen for their access. We started helping the elderly people and the people coming down from the 40th floors, walking down the stairs, and which way to get out of the building. When we went outside building number 4, we see plane parts all over the place. I used to work in aviation. Plane parts all over the place. I see the 2 planes that hit the 2 buildings, fires, people jumping out of the buildings, you know, up in the 80s, out of those floors. My partner and I start calling for, fellow workers. And one of the guys I know was down 6 levels below ground, and we couldn't find him. Nobody could get him on the radio. So we went back inside looking for him, and we couldn't get him. We couldn't find him. We looked. 2 other men got out that we were looking for, and one guy, we couldn't find him for nothing. There was so much rain and so much water from the sprinkler system and the standpipes and the smoke that we had to get out ourselves. Everybody was being ushered through the complex away from Liberty. All of a sudden, it was like bang, 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 like bullet shots. And then all of a sudden, 3 tremendous explosions. And everything started coming down. We started running, just running. We couldn't catch ourselves. The force just pushed us to the ground. We were pushed up against marble slabs and other people and glass and the smoke. And we were buried in that stuff. I reached up and grabbed a fireman by his belt. I had a flashlight. And I feel in my legs, something's wrong with my leg, it's busted, but I can't go any further, you know? So I'm gonna just crawl along. I busted this leg. We're walking along, I'm grabbing a belt from the fireman, and then anybody I bump into, I just grab on and yelling, hang on, just follow us out, just hang on, don't let go. You know, we change directions. I know that Liberty Street's the other side, we're going out.
You're hanging on by your arms.
We're hanging on to people, just hanging on to people. No, I'm hanging on to people, dragging one leg, limping, and they're hanging on to me like a little train. And as we cross the street by the financial center, the building explodes and just comes down. And I'm yelling, I'm screaming for my buddy Mike, because he was right next to me.
Your buddy Mike.
He made it out. Whatever allies they were gonna be, or what, honey? I've been waiting for hours for you. I love you.
Lisa Del Bianco is here. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Good morning.
I see tears welling up in your eyes, as they are in mine, as you watch that piece. You had a teary reunion. What was it like?
I was kind of going from numb to happy. I couldn't believe it. It was so long because I waited and waited upstairs, and then they called me downstairs. So it was, I guess I didn't know if I was believing what I was seeing. You know?
I know you told me before we started that it's difficult for you to feel happy about this. I mean, your story does have a happy ending, and you know, you're celebrating in parts of your soul, but other parts you're very distraught.
Sad. Yes, very sad for people that are waiting.
The fact that your husband usually works on the roof of the World Trade Center, he wasn't on the roof that day, was he?
No, he was on his way up to the roof. He stopped to get a toolbox for someone. So it held him back a few minutes where he would have been.
This guy has escaped trouble before. You were telling me. Tell me again where he was when the World Trade Center was bombed.
He had taken off to go skiing that day, and he was supposed to be at work, but he wasn't. And we were in Aruba on vacation last month, and he saved a drowning man and made the newspaper there. It was a big thing. They thought he was a doctor and everything.
He's made it out of car crashes,
car crash, and a typhoon in Guam.
What's his condition now, Lisa?
He has a pin in his leg that they're taking out today, supposedly. He's in good spirits. I didn't know what condition, because he's always trying to protect me and sugarcoat everything when he talks to me on the phone. So I was wondering if that was what he was doing, and when I got there, I was going to see a mess. And I got there, and he looked like my Artie, only with a pin in his leg. And, you know, so they're going to take... I mean, he goes from crying, you know, there's so many mixed emotions that everybody's feeling.
Because he, too, probably has friends that are still missing, I would say.
Yeah, there were 4 gentlemen. He was one of 4 that went back in, and 2 came out. Him and his buddy Mike, and the other 2 they haven't found yet.
Tuesday was your 10-month anniversary?
10-month anniversary. We celebrate monthly. We don't celebrate yearly.
So you're newlyweds. I must imagine that you feel a great deal of relief. I know it's difficult in many ways, the emotions, but thank you. There's one good news, one piece of good news, one happy story this morning. Thanks for telling it to us, Lisa Del Bianco.
Thank you.
All right. 11:45, Brian.
All right, Jane, with the nation's grade schools just days into the school year, thousands of teachers across this nation struggled to explain Tuesday morning's horrifying events. They're expected to keep everyone calm while fielding questions ranging from international terrorism to the realities of what happens when the nation's 2 tallest buildings collapse. Crystal Square is a teacher in Atlanta. She's there with 2 of her students, Taryn Abrams and Stephen Austin. Good morning.
Good morning.
Crystal, let me start with you, if I might. Tuesday, when did you hear, and were you in the midst of teaching when it happened?
Yes, I was in the midst of teaching, and we heard shortly, I would say maybe 9:20, 9:30 or so, a teacher came into my room, and she just said, a plane has hit the World Trade Center. And I said, no, it can't be. She said, no, a plane has hit the World Trade Center. Turn on the TV. So I was in the midst of a lesson.
Spanish lesson? Spanish
lesson, yes. These are my my advanced placement Spanish students.
And did you and your students watch the whole thing unfold?
Yes, we did.
That must have been horrific.
It was. We watched after the second plane hit the World Trade Center. So we did see the Pentagon on fire. We did see the plane go down, the aftermath of the plane going down in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Taryn Abrams, as you sat there watching this, a lot of tears in the classroom?
There were some tears, but I think mostly a lot of shock and disbelief. Like, I think Americans, myself included, we've all felt like Americans are invincible and we're immune to this sort of attack, but I think it makes us aware that we're all just as vulnerable as everyone else. So.
Stephen Austin, did you feel scared?
Not initially. Well, we were just trying to, I was watching to see what was going to happen next. I mean, it was kind of like one of those movies like Independence Day or movies like that. Especially when the building collapsed. When the first one fell, it was, you know, a girl in our class had predicted it was going to fall anyway. And then it happened, and we were just trying to see if the other one was going to, and it did too. So we were all kind of scared and just wanted to see, you know, we were into the story.
What kind of conversations came up in the classroom?
As Stephen said, a discussion of when the second plane hit, is that building going to collapse? And someone said if it does collapse, it might collapse inward, and that's a possibility. And then when that happened, we were just in shock. At one point, I did put the TV on mute, and I told my students, yes, this will change us, but we're going to decide how. If you were idealistic when you came in this room, and I want you to leave that way, yes, it's going to change us, but we're going to decide how. This evil is not going to change who we are and what we believe about people. And I said, if you believe mankind is good, then take that with you. But I didn't, there was fear. With every incident, there was tension, and then we would be calm a little bit, and then something else would happen, and then that tension would rise again.
And Taryn, I understand there's a reason you're wearing black today, huh?
Yeah, our whole school has decided that we're going to wear black in mourning for the victims, and we're also wearing ribbons, white ribbons that show peace and hope.
And Stephen, what do you want to see happen next?
I think that since our school is so internationally known, and we have students from more than 70 countries around the world, I believe, I want to see our school be more cooperative, and uniform about what happened, and not let national pride destroy us.
Well, I really hope this experience galvanizes and unifies the American people. And we're not going to capitulate to these people.
Crystal, and I think it already has. I think it already has united us.
Crystal Square, Taryn Abrams, and Stephen Austin, I thank all 3 of you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
There seems to be little doubt that Tuesday's attacks are going to have a profound impact and change our way of American life. Our national correspondent Hattie Kaufman is in Los Angeles with just a little bit more on that. Hattie?
Good morning, Bryant. In addition to causing an incredible loss of life, the terrorist attack also made a direct hit on our collective national psyche. So many things will never be the same, among them our sense of security.
These are scenes of the new American reality. Heavily armed federal agents, tighter checkpoints at places of work, and Coast Guard officials inspecting ships in port. Safety is on everyone's mind. In Salt Lake City, Olympic organizers question their $200 million security plan.
It does make us step back and think, okay, now is a plan, can we really do what the plan says it can do?
Around the country, people are taking security into their own hands. At B&B Gun Sales, business is brisk.
This terrorist activity just made people feel more insecure, and when they feel more insecure, they buy weapons.
What kind of arms are people buying?
Pistols, shotguns, rifles, anything.
Air travel will never be the same. In Seattle, signs inform passengers carry-ons will not be permitted. How is travel going to change?
I think we've lost our innocence with travel. If they have to check in 2 hours early, then they need to check in 2 hours early. They can't make a mad dash 20 minutes before a flight.
Fear of flying has east-west trains sold out.
We called Amtrak. The next available date, September 19th. So we decided to hop in a car, and we're going to start driving back tomorrow.
All the way from Los Angeles to New York. Still, others are planning to avoid travel altogether.
I have hotel reservations for New York over the New Year's holiday, which I'd been looking forward to. I'm not going there, so it definitely has impacted my life.
For some, the impact is a stirring of patriotism. There's a run on American flags.
I knew some people on those planes, and I feel like I have to do something.
You're hurting today.
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of people are. It is the one symbol, regardless of race, color, that we can all unite under. And that's where we are today, uniting under the flag.
With everything that's happening, I felt like it was really important to show some sort of solidarity. And I have a friend in New York who is missing, and he was in the World Trade Center. He was on the 103rd floor.
Hand-painted signs of patriotism decorate the landscape from coast to coast.
Everybody's walking around in such a different state right now. The world's totally changed.
And Hollywood is making some changes. Arnold Schwarzenegger's new movie Collateral Damage will not be released on schedule. It involved a terrorist attack on a high-rise. And trailers for the movie Spider-Man have been pulled from theaters. They showed the character Spider-Man making a web between the two towers of the World Trade Center to catch an evil aircraft. Bryant?
Terrorist attack on a high-rise, that's not going to, they better hold that a long time.
Yes.
Hattie, what are you hearing about the Emmys, the Latin Grammys, rescheduling?
There will be rescheduled broadcasts for the Emmys. I don't know anything about the Latin Grammys. Things are starting back up here, but slowly. There was a jazz concert last night at the Hollywood Bowl, for instance.
All right. Hattie, thanks so very much.
Okay.
And again, in case you missed our announcement earlier, the NFL, Commissioner Paul Tagliabue has decided, I understand there was a degree of, or at least the owners felt strongly about this, that the games should be canceled. They have, in fact, now been canceled. The second week of games have been canceled. We don't know yet whether those games will be rescheduled or whether we're just looking at a postponement. I don't know.
I was just looking at Time Magazine special edition that's out.
Yeah.
The pictures in here,
this is the Newsweek.
You've never seen anything like it.
Oh, I glanced at them.
You've never seen anything
like it. No,
like
it's like something out of a horror film. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, having made a movie about terrorists inside a high-rise, that thing may sit on the shelf until you and I are over and out of here.
I like the thought that teacher had, you just spoke with. She said, it's going to change us. This is going to change us. It's up to us how.
Yeah.
It's up to us how we let it change us.
The kids seem to have a pretty good handle on it.
But I like that thought. It will change us. It's just a matter of how we let it change us.
Yeah, they got a better handle on it than I do right now. We are coming up on the close of our allotted time. As we move up on 11:54 Eastern Time, some viewers will now cut away for local news. We're going to come on back here and do some final notes right after this. Back now at 11:55. I can't.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, these pictures. I wish we could put them up because they're so poignant and.
You know, it's frightening. I mean, we work in television, and we're big fans of television, obviously, but still pictures still have
see this?
the most enormous impact. I mean, still photographs just do you in.
There's another one here that I must show because it's the image in my mind that I can't get out. It's the shot of those poor souls who are ending their lives by jumping. Right there.
Yeah. Incredible. Really remarkable. Let's pass on a couple of tangential notes. Early on this morning, there was an Amtrak crash out in Utah. One Amtrak train crashed into another one. We have no word of, no deaths have been confirmed. It happened early this morning. It involved a freight train carrying propane and an Amtrak train. It happened in Wendover, Utah. That was the site of it. All people have been accounted for. There is no word yet on injuries or deaths. We understand there was a fire burning, but that was early on. And then there's this note, which I guess we should not be surprised at. Nonetheless, it's pretty disgusting. From Ardmore, Oklahoma, a woman there was arrested for posing as a Red Cross volunteer and soliciting donations for those hurt in the accident, in the attacks here in New York and Washington.
Somebody's always trying to take advantage.
Yeah.
On that topic, though, for those who'd like to help the rescue workers and the rescue efforts in New York, we've given out several phone numbers throughout this broadcast. We've put all of those phone numbers on the website at cbs.com. So if you go to that website, you can find the phone numbers and also find ways that you might help. Beyond giving blood, beyond everything that we've spoken about this morning, there's the number 1-800-HELP-NOW. That's the American Red Cross. That's just one of the numbers that are on the CBS website, and you can go there for all the detailed information.
So you wonder when things will get back to normal. Now the NFL games have been canceled. The Pac-10, Pacific 10 Conference of the NCAA has canceled all home games for the weekend. Baseball is again dark tonight, although we are hearing that baseball will resume tomorrow evening. I assume Broadway is still dark. For how long, I don't know.
I think I read that they're up and running tonight.
Probably, and
some are.
And the market is still closed. Although we understand there will be a call made later this afternoon on whether or not the stock market will open for business tomorrow
What did Brian Finnerty
or Monday.
Say? He thought Monday.
He thought Monday. That's what I've been hearing from a lot of people.
We've been saying last 24 hours.
That it won't be until Monday. But increasingly there seems to be a need for all of us to resume some sense of normalcy, because there's this pervasive sadness that has settled over New York, and I would imagine to a lesser extent the nation's capital too.
You can't escape it though. Anywhere in the city, you go to the park, you walk down Fifth Avenue or Madison Avenue, you know, the regular haunts, and you see the sight. I mean, you look down the street and there it is, and the smoke's still rising. And you go to the park and you look down the street and there it is, the smoke's still rising.
Yeah.
You can't get it out of your mind. You turn on the television, of course, there are the images, but here in the city, it's especially difficult to get it out of your mind.
When I left here yesterday, I ran into some tourists who were visiting New York for the first time, and I can't help but wonder, you know, how strange their images of New York must be. I mean, they came here to see this bustling, thriving city, and instead they see this city that has been under attack and has been greatly altered as a result, not just physically but psychologically.
We should end this day as we did yesterday by giving our thoughts and prayers to those rescue workers who are still making work for themselves down at the World Trade Center, which was, and we hope you have luck today finding those who are still there.
As we disappear, Don King, why don't you go ahead and take some pictures, and we'll leave it with pictures of the effort continuing on the southern tip of Manhattan. We're coming up on 12 noon. That does it for us on this day. We give way here as the attack on America continues. CBS News coverage with Dan Rather. We'll see you tomorrow.
Where local news comes